Hi, this is going to be the first part of a two-part tutorial on how to build and 100% automate a YouTube content idea generator and YouTube content calendar. And in this part, we will create the YouTube content idea generator based on your competitor's data or your niche using its keywords. And how this works is that we will pull data from YouTube into a database, analyze and identify which of these videos performed well, and let an AI list their keywords and topics to give us ideas for our next content. And in the second part, we will take this further and use that data and again let an LLM create optimized titles, descriptions, hashtags and everything, and put all of this data into a YouTube content calendar. And all that you need is going to be Apify, which we will use to scrape all the data from YouTube. Then we will use make.com to automate the whole process and the whole flow. And finally, we will use Airtable, which will serve as our database. And you will get all the templates that you're going to need for free. So feel free to download them at script.com/resources, and let's get started. Alright, this is the process we are going to go through. First of all, we are going to get the data from competitors' channels, or we are going to use a search term based on your niche or keyword. So this is, for instance, the most successful video content like the title, description, views and likes and everything. And we're going to use Apify for this. After this, we're going to clean up and transform the relevant data using AI, amongst others, and we're going to extract the most relevant keywords and topics, and we're going to do that within make.com. After this, we are going to populate the database and perform an analysis for the best topics, and we're going to check that cleaned up data and use all the formulas to identify the relevant KPIs, and we're going to go through Airtable and do this in there. Now, if you see the yellow box, then you'll see that this is the first part. This is what we are going to go through today, and after this is going to be the next video, and this will be where we will actually generate optimal content ideas using AI. And we will probably do that in Make and create a content calendar itself. And there's also a pretty nice interface that you can use within Airtable. And I'm going to probably use this one, but this is for next week's content. And today we're going to go through the yellow box. So let's first of all set up our Airtable and go to the airtable.com. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically the closest thing we can get to a real database, but with the usability and user friendliness of something like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. And if you have done so, sign up or sign in. And if you have signed in, then you are going to go to all of your workspaces and can just create a new table. So hit create, and we're going to start from scratch. But I have already prepared this and going to show you right now the YouTube calendar demo. And today we're going to go through two of those three tables that I've created. So we will take a look at the videos table, then we will afterwards take a look at the keywords table. And by the way, you can get all of the resources at script.com/resources. There you can just sign up and you will get all the templates that I'm going through here for free. So in this video table, we have a couple of fields, as you can see, and to explain those, I'm going to go through all of them really quickly. So this will be the content that we are going to pull out of Apify, out of the YouTube API, right? And this is the data we are going to get from that API call. So we will have a video ID, then we have a video title, we have the description. And by the way, if you hover over this little icon, then you can see what this actually means. So I've actually added a short description of all of those KPIs. Then we will have the tags, and then it gets interesting. We have the number of counts, the number of views, the number of likes, and the number of comments. And then we will get the published date and the duration of the video. And then we will do a little work of ourselves by using a formula, which will basically convert this duration into seconds, so that it's a little easier to calculate with this. And then we will have a linked record, right? So if you double click on this field, then you will have the possibility to change the actual data type. So if we click on this one, then you will see a long list of possible data types this column or this field can have. And there is a link to another record data type, if you will. And if you click on this, then you can choose from one of all the other tables that you have. And you can pull the data in right from there. And this is what we're going to do. So we're going to link to the keywords table so that we will be able to see which keywords are linked to this specific video. And we will populate all of this using AI, and this is going to be automated completely. And the final thing is a rather simple calculation, which is the likes per view, which is also a formula. So we have the data type formula, and then you can enter the formula right in here. So it's going to be the likes and then divided by the view count, which are the parameters we have pulled in right from YouTube itself, right from the YouTube API call itself. Same with the comments per view. And as you can see, it's just the comments count and then divided by the view count. So it's very simple. And that's it for this table. Then let's switch to the keywords table. And here we can see all the other parameters that we are going to use. So the first one will be a keyword ID, then the keyword itself, and we will have one keyword per record, per line, right? So one keyword per row. Then we have the associated video, right? So we have again another link to another record, and this is going to be the videos table, and there we will list all the titles from the other tables so that we know which video is linked to that specific keyword. And then we have the total views. This is going to be a roll-up field. So this means that we will calculate the total views for all videos containing this specific keyword. The same we will do with the average engagement, which will just be the actual likes per view, and then we're going to calculate the average of the likes per view so that we have this specific KPI that we can later on use. And finally, we have the keyword importance, is what I called it, where this is again a pretty simple formula where we'll just multiply the total views with the average engagement. And you can get pretty complicated and complex in this analysis, and this is a rather simple approach, but I will get to more complex approaches at the end of this video, where I will share a couple of advanced bonus tips how you can get into even more in depth in regards to the data we're going to pull out of the API. And finally, we have this planned content field, which is again another link to another record, which is linked to the planned content table. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to talk about the content calendar creator next time. All right, now let's jump into Apify. So jump to apify.com. And Apify is a basically pretty convenient way to build web scrapers, right? So you can get all of that data from all kinds of different platforms, including YouTube, what we're going to do today. But you can also get content from TikTok, which is one of my last videos, as you can see. And there are plenty of others, and you can just log in or sign up here. And if you have logged in, then just go to the store and look for YouTube. And this is already the first result. There are plenty of other scrapers you can use, but we are going to use the YouTube scraper. So I'm going to click on this. And as you can see, they have listed the pricing structure right above here. So you're going to pay $5 for 1,000 videos that you are going to get out of this scraper. And if you go down here to the run options, and we are going to go through all of the options in a minute, but just to show you already that we can set up a maximum charge results, and down here at the bottom you can see what this run of this specific scraper is going to cost you. So for our testing purposes, we will probably use like 10 or even less than that, and this is just going to cost us 5 cents. Now we want to catch the data that this scraper is going to output later on within make.com later on, right, to further process it. And to connect these two apps, we will need to have an API token from Apify that we can later on put into make.com so that it creates a connection, so that it's actually able to pull all the data that is going to be output here right into make.com. And to be able to do this, we need to go to the settings tab right over here, click on it. And after this, we will go to API and integrations. And here you can already see that I have already created a personal API token, and this is exactly where you want to go if you haven't done so yet. So this will be this button here. You just click on it, add a token, and then it will create this token for you, and you can just copy this one and then later on paste it into our make module. All right, then let's head over to make.com. And Make is basically a tool that will enable you to connect any kind of apps with each other and to create pretty complex automation scenarios. So this is exactly what we want. So if you haven't done so yet, sign up or sign in. And after you have logged in, just go over to your scenarios in your dashboard and hit create new scenario. And this is where we will end up on our canvas, and now we can start building our automation. So first of all, we are going to create a connection to Apify. Look for Apify and then show more and watch actor runs. Start this, and now we will have to create a webhook, and this is the part where we will need to enter our API token we have just created in Apify, right? So create a webhook and give it a name just like this. And then, as you can see, I've already created my connection, but if you haven't done so yet, then just add it, give it a name, and enter the API token you have just created, and then save it, and it's going to create the connection. And the actors you have available are going to be shown here. And for this one, we're going to use the YouTube scraper. Hit this and click save, and then wait a couple of seconds. And here you can see that this has already created the connection we need. Hit OK, and that's it. And what we have just done is to create a webhook, which basically means that every time this actor, this YouTube scraper, finishes within Apify, then this module is going to be triggered and everything that comes after it. And the next thing is that we want to get all of our data, right? So all of the data that the Apify scraper outputs is going to be collected within Make. So we're going to add another module, choose Apify again, and then we want to get the dataset items. Click on this, and we have our connection right here. And then we just need a dataset ID, right? So we're going to click into this and then look for ID. And there are a couple of them, so you need to be careful which one you're choosing, and the one we need is going to be the default dataset ID. Click on this, and it's going to be pasted right in here. We will choose clean for the data transformation, just as we will also keep the JSON format. You can limit this to a maximum amount, and the offset is going to be empty. Hit OK, and that's it. All right, and now we can basically test this, but before we do, we are going to go back into Apify and actually set up our actor. So I'm back within Apify and within the settings of our scraper. So let's quickly go through the settings. And we're going to go through all of these within the input field, which is the most important part actually. But let's take a quick look at all the other tabs. So the information just gives you a little background information about the scraper itself. Then you have the runs, where you can take a look into your past runs and even access the data again. Then you have the builds, so basically like a change log of this specific scraper. Then you have the integrations tab, which is the actual setup and connection to other apps like we just have set up with Make. And if you then go to monitoring, then you can also take a look into the data of this specific scraper, how you used it in the past. Then there's an issues tab, and you can also create specific templates for within the saved tasks panel. And we will go back to the inputs panel. So let's go through the settings real quickly. So as you can see, you have the possibility obviously to enter a search term, which would basically be the same as if you were looking for something within the YouTube interface itself. Then you can define the maximum number of videos, and this is going to be divided into the several types of videos. So you can even specify that you want a maximum number of shorts or a maximum number of streams. And we're going to keep this to 10 for now. Then you can enter direct URLs, and this is what we are going to use within this tutorial, so that we will look for competitors basically, so other channels that we find interesting and have valuable content within our niche, and we are going to scrape their content and their data. And then we can scrape the subtitles, and this is something I'm going to get into more within the advanced tips part of this video at the end of the video, because this is also quite interesting. And then we can add filters and sorting options. I have selected the upload date so that you have the most recent ones at the top, and you can even have a date range, so you can say that you only want the videos from the last week, for instance, or only those that are newer than, and then a specific date. And finally, you have the run options. This is basically a way to define which build you want to use, and define a timeout and memory maximum. And also, and this is what I already told you, the maximum charged results. And here you can see how much this run, so one of these runs, is going to finally cost you. And these are the settings of this scraper. Now, as I already mentioned, we are going to use direct URLs, right? You can obviously use the search term, and then this won't be as specific, but I have prepared a couple of channels in relation to the topic of personal productivity. Right? So let's say you have a channel and you want to look for the most trending videos that are from that specific niche, but you want to limit it to certain creators because you respect their work and you want to be inspired by that, or you see that they have produced quite good content. Then you can just add them here one by one, and just enter their channel account and or channel URL, and just add them one by one. All right, I'm actually going to increase the number of videos to maybe 50 or something. And let's go on with the setup. So the scraping of the subtitles is something we will not do right now. We will check the filters, and I'm going to sort this by upload date so that we have the most recent ones at the top. And then the date range, let's take, I don't know, maybe the last 30 days or maybe 60 days. Let's try 30 first. And we're going to sort this by the most popular, right? And in regards to the run options, we're going to choose 50 as well. And this is going to cost us 25 cents, which is quite reasonable. And then save this. All right, now we're all set. All right, now let's test this. So we're going to hit start and see what happens. All right, now this took 30 seconds, and as you can see, we have gotten 9 results, right? And this is because we have defined a date range, right? So we said we only wanted the content from the last 30 days, and those creators only had 9 results in total, or 9 videos in total that they created within the last 30 days. So this is the information and this is the data we have received, right? And this is just a small selection in regards to the fields, as you can see. So you get the title, you get the URL, number of views, when it was published, and then the likes, and also some channel information. But this is just a selection because you can see that there's a overview tab, and if you take a look at the all fields tab, then you can see that there's really much more that you can take a look into, and some of them is actually something we are going to use later on. But so this has worked, and we're going to use this data now. And for that, I'm going to go back into Make, and I'm going to hit run once, and we're going to wait for new data and see what happens after this actor finishes. So we're going to start it again, and we're going to jump over back to Make again and see what happens. So this has finished, and let's take a look at what happened. This is the output, the status is succeeded, and if we took a look at the data itself, then we can see that we indeed have received all the data that was also outputted by the Apify scraper. We have 9 results, and here you can see we have the title, we have an ID, which is something we're going to use later on, the date, when it was published, and everything else. Awesome. Now we want to create a connection to Airtable already, and that is because we want to search the records, and we want to be sure that the data we have pulled out of the Apify scraper doesn't already exist within our table. So let's open up Airtable again. Then you have to remember that within our videos table, we will have quite a lot of data already pulled in, right? So we have 1 record per video, and if we have hundreds or thousands of videos, then we want to make sure that the information or the data we just pulled out of our Apify run doesn't already exist within this, right? So that it doesn't mess up our data. So to make sure that this doesn't happen, we will search the records and then check whether there are duplicates already within our Airtable table. So add another module, and we will select Airtable again, and we will look for records. Hit search records, and then you will need to create a connection again. So hit add, and then the connection type is going to be token or key, and you can give the connection a name. This is just a hint that the API keys themselves will be deprecated. And the token type is going to be a personal access token. And in order to get this, you need to jump back into Airtable. And within your account view, you can just go to the Builder Hub and then select the personal access tokens and then create a new token. You can give the token a name. I'm going to call it YouTube scraper, and then you will need to add a scope, which basically means what kind of permissions this scraper should have, or this personal access token should have. So we will need to read the records, and we will also need to write probably the schema, the read and write permissions as well, and then create the token. And then you will be shown this little pop-up, and this token will actually be only shown once, so you need to copy and paste it and save it somewhere safe. And this will be exactly the token that we are going to paste into our make module. And by the way, obviously you will need to also configure to which database this token should have access to. So you also need to add a base, look for the one you want to grant this access to. I'm going to select the YouTube calendar demo, and then hit save changes, and that's it. And we can go back into make. So after pasting your token into this, you will have established a connection, and then you can choose the database you want to interact with. So I'm going to choose the YouTube calendar demo. I'm going to select the videos table, and there's no need to sort this right now. The view is going to be the default grid view, and the output fields can be all. And if you don't select anything, then it will actually by default output all the fields. And finally, we need to add a formula, and this formula is going to be an Airtable formula. And if you don't know how these work, then you can take a look at the Airtable's documentation. But what we want to do is, if you go back to the Airtable table, to our videos table, is that we want to search for the video ID, or within the field video ID, we want to search for the video ID that we have just pulled out of our API call, right? And check whether this already exists, and to skip it, or to skip the import of that data if it already exists. And this is quite simple actually. The only thing we would need to input is the opening curly brace. Then we will enter the name of the field or the column of our table that we want to go through, and which is video ID, video space ID. It has to match exactly, including spaces, including casing, everything. Then just an equal sign, and then within inverted commas, we are going to input the ID we have just received from the get dataset items call. And this is the ID field right here. So just click it, and that's already it. And we can keep the limit to 10, just hit OK, and that's it for now. The next thing is that we want to add a new record, right? And we want to add a new video ID and all the data according to it, if we haven't found it within our Airtable column, right? So if we can be sure that this is actually a video we haven't analyzed yet. So we're going to add another module again, choose Airtable again, and then create a record. But before we continue to enter all the data we need, we are going to set up a filter between here, because we only want this to run if we can be sure that the ID doesn't exist yet, right? So we will hit this little icon and then set up a filter, and the condition is going to be the following. So click in here, and then we will take the total number of bundles from the Airtable search records module, click it, and then use this operator. And we will look for equal to again, but not the text operator, but the numeric one, equal to, and then 0. Hit OK, and that's it. So now we can be sure that everything that goes through here has no results yet in the video ID field. So the bundle will be 0, and therefore everything that goes through here will be a new entry. Alright, and now we can set up our create a record module from Airtable. Then we can select the table where we want to create a record in. This will be the videos. And now we need to assign a value to each of those fields from our get dataset items. And I'm not going to bore you with all of them, so I'm going to fill out these really quickly. Alright, I have now filled all of these out. And as you can see, they all come from this step, right? From the get dataset item step. And then the only thing worth mentioning is the date that we are dealing with, because we need to format this date, and the format we have defined within Airtable is the date data type. And if you have chosen this, then you have the ability also to define the format that you would want to use, right? And I chose ISO because it is a very distinctive and common actually format that we can use, so that there's no confusion. We will also include the time and then set this to a 24-hour format. If we jump back into make, then we need to format this date that comes out of Apify as well, right? So we will jump into the dates and times panel, and then we will choose this function with the format date function. So we click on this, and now you can see that we have two fields within this function that we need to fill out. And the first one is going to be the date that we want to convert. So this will be the date out of our Apify call, and this is also called date, and this is going to be the format that we want to convert it into. And the format, as we just said, is going to be ISO, right? So we have YYY, 4 Ys, dash MM for month, dash again, and then we have the day, and we want the 24-hour format, so it's going to be capitalized H's, HH, then the colon and double M for the time factor, right? And as soon as we had this, then this is going to be converted into this specific format, and we won't have any trouble when this gets transferred into our Airtable. And the final part will be the duration. And if we look for duration, then you can see that we have this specific format, right? And this is quite common actually. So you have the hours, the minute, and the seconds, which does make sense, and it's very readable. However, this can get quite tricky if you want to put this into a database. So what we're going to do is to use a function again, and this time we're going to convert this into a string. This is also the reason why we have this formula here, which we are using to convert this text into an actual number, and this is going to represent the duration in seconds. So we're going to use another function, and the function is called toString. So what do you want, which value do you want to convert into a string, and this is going to be the duration. So we're just going to select this, and that's it already. Now let's test this. So we can run this once, and we're going to wait for new data, and we're going to jump back into Apify and run this scraper again from the start. So hit start and see what happens. All right, this took quite some time, almost a minute and a half, and we're going to jump into make. Now let's take a look at this. Now, as you can see, first of all, we have apparently 8 entries that went through this filter, which is a good thing because our table was empty, right? And I already gave that away. We have already our data, but let's check this first. So we have a search record, and here you can see that we are making sure that there are no duplicates, right? So we have our input, and then it outputs the total number of bundles, which is 0 because it didn't find a video in the video ID column with this ID, right? Okay, this works. The filter apparently works as well. And now it created a record. And the content of those records is going to be always the data that we wanted it to have, right? So we have the video ID, we have the video title, we have the description, which can get quite extensive, and we have the date and everything else that we wanted to have. Great, so this worked, and we can check our Airtable. And if we jump back into here, then we already saw that we did get some data, and this looks really nice. So we have a video ID, and as you know, we have let this be generated by Apify, right? We took the original video ID, which is quite nice. Then we have the video title. We have the description. There are some tags that are being used because we usually use the hashtags as well. Then we have the view count, the likes, and the comments count. And here you can see the publishing date. So this apparently worked as well. We have our duration, and we have converted this duration because this formula, as you can see, uses this duration field and then converts it into seconds. Then we already have the likes per view and the comments per view, and this already gives you a pretty good indicator about the quality of that specific video. Great, so this worked very nice, and we're going to take care of the keywords next using AI. So we will jump into make again, and we're going to add another module. This time we're going to use the OpenAI module, and we are going to create a chat completion. And if you haven't done so, as always, you need to add a connection. So you can just get your API key from your OpenAI backend and enter it here, and the connection is going to be created right away. Then the selection method, or the method we are going to use, will be a chat completion. And the model we will use will be GPT-4o Mini. And this should be sufficient for our purposes, and it's a lot faster and doesn't use up as many tokens as GPT-4o. Now, as for the messages, I am going to click add a message, and the role is first of all going to be the system. So we're going to create a system prompt first, and I have already prepared all of this, and you can also download this, and this will also be part of the assets and resources I'm going to share with you. Just go to script.com/resources, and there you will also get the prompt. And the prompt we are going to use will be this one. So it's quite extensive. You don't have to make it as detailed as this one, but it is helpful for further extension of this analyzer. So for instance, you have also a topic categorization or predictive trend analysis definition, and we won't use this, but you can build on top of this. We're going to select this text, and the message content will be just this. We are going to add another message, and this will be specific for our purpose right now. And the role is going to be the user again. And this time we will use this part, and this is going to tell the AI that we want to extract the keywords or topics of that specific video. This basically just tells the AI that we want to extract keywords from the title, from the description, and also from the text. So the title is going to obviously be from our get dataset item again. So we will use the title, the original title. So the description is going to be the text. The tags are going to be the hashtags. And then we're basically telling the AI to output a list and to format it like a comma separated list, right? So it's going to be keyword 1, then a comma, then a space, keyword 2, and so on. And the reason why we are doing it this way is because later on we can iterate over this collection and then put all of these keywords within one record. All right, now we have the max tokens, so this should be sufficient. Hit OK and save this. Now, as for the next step, we will add another module again, and this time we will set a variable. We're just going to name it keywords, and the variable value will be, first of all, a function. So we will choose split function, and what this does is that it takes a specific text and then separates it by a specific separator we are telling it. If you remember, our output of the ChatGPT module will be exactly this, right? It will be a comma separated list of single keywords, and this is exactly what we want, because we want to iterate over each of those items, and we need to separate and split it so that it gets processed one by one. And the text will be the result from ChatGPT, what it outputs, and the separator is just going to be a comma, and that's already it. So we're done with this step. Okay, now next we want to iterate over this variable, this array we have just created, which means that we are going to use the Iterator module, Iterator, and going to select this. And the only input field we need for this, you click on this, then you already see that we can use the keywords array. So just click on this, hit OK, and that's already it for this step. Okay, and now what we will do is that we want to take different paths depending on what this gives us, right? Because if this keyword already exists, then we want to update the according record, right? So imagine if you have a keyword called, I don't know, productivity or something like this, and this is already within our table, then we want to update it, right, with the data we have extracted as well. And we don't just want to skip it, because we want to add that data and to add especially the video, right? We want to tell the system, our system basically, that there's another video which does use this keyword that we have extracted before, right? And if the keyword doesn't exist, then obviously we want to create a new record. And this is the path that we want to create right now. And we will use a router for this. And with the router, you are able to, as I said before, create different paths. So the first one, first of all, we're going to select the router. And as you can see, there are basically two separate ways, and you can set the conditions which route is going to be taken, right? And we will use the condition for the first one. So select this little icon again and set up a filter. And the condition this time is going to be just as we did before, but we're going to choose this second search records module, right? And again, we're going to use the total number of bundles. If this is equal to, but not the text operator, again, the numeric equal to 0, then this just means that this keyword does not exist yet. And then we will have the first route where we will create a new one. And let me just label it as such. So keyword does not exist. And this is going to be our first route. And the second route will be exactly the opposite, right? So we will set up a filter again. And the condition is going to be that the total number of bundles is greater than 0. All right, now if the keyword does not exist, it's quite easy. We are just going to create another record. So Airtable module again, and then create a record. The database table, as always, create a keyword record. And the keyword itself is going to be the value out of our iterator. The videos field will be filled with links. So what's going to be entered in here are the links to this table, and this will be the video IDs, right? So what we want inside of here are again the video IDs. Now we are not going to add each of them individually, right? Because this is going to be later on populated automatically. So what we want instead is to have it be populated dynamically. And we can achieve this by checking this icon here, which is the map function. And then we will enter the video ID, which we have received from our very first get data search call, right? If you remember, this was our first Apify call. And here we have the video ID, and that's already it. So we can just hit OK and save this again. But before we go on, I forgot one little setting. That's the smart links. Now we can just hit OK, and now we can actually test this. I will jump into our tables again, and I have already deleted the previous entries, as you can see, so that the table is empty, because we want to pass this test that the records don't exist yet, right? The entries don't exist yet because we haven't defined the alternative path yet. So we want to have new records created. All right. We will run this once, and then we will jump back into Apify and start our scraper again. All right, now it's finished. And here you can see how the AI is extracting all of those keywords and then sending them back as a list. And here you can see how they are actually split, right? Because here you can see that the number is always the same. So the runs are always the same. And now it's iterating over all of these keywords, extracting them, and then sending them over one by one into Airtable. Great, this looks great. Let's take a look at the data. And here we can already see we have a couple of operations. So this is what's supposed to happen, right? So it looks for the IDs, for all of the separate IDs, and it returns 0. And it does so with all of these, each of these individual IDs. And so it's able to run through this filter, and then it creates the video records. And we can take a look at this right here. And this is exactly what happened, right? So we have all of the data again, and within make again, we have all the different extractions from ChatGPT, right? So we can take a look at the input. So let's see if our messages were correctly transmitted, and this seems nice. This is the bigger prompt, the longer prompt we've used before. The second one is this, and let's take a look at the output. And here you can see the output of what ChatGPT created, right? So this is from a video dealing with the topics of Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, search and research. Awesome. And also the format, it's a comma separated list. It's also adhered to the prompt that we don't want more than 5 keywords. And this is exactly what it should look like. This looks great. And if we take a look at our tables, then this also looks quite nice. We have our ID, the title, description, the tags, just everything as before. But now you can see we have our extracted keywords, right? And these are the IDs of the keywords because those tables are connected via IDs. We have a lookup field. A lookup field, by the way, is if you click on this little arrow here, then you can add a lookup field. And this is basically just the exact selection of fields and columns you have in that field that you are getting the data out of, right? So you can choose which one you would like to show here. And I've chosen the keyword itself. And now we also have some data just as before. So this looks very nice. And now let's also have a look at the keywords table itself. And now you can see how all of these are on a separate row. And this is the video that this keyword was taken out of. These are the total views and the average engagement. And now we also have calculations and the data that we can use and work with for our content calendar that we are going to create next time. All right, now let's take care of the second route we have. And remember, this is the one where we already do have the keyword. And there's a specific module that we're going to use from Airtable as well. And this is going to be update a record, right? Because we want to update the record we have within our keywords table, and especially to add the videos that are within or that are related to this keyword, right? And we want to collect them. We're going to choose update a record, the same base again, keywords table again. And now we need the record ID, and we will get this from this module here because this is what it outputs as well. So we're going to choose the ID, and we're just going to leave the keyword empty because this is the one that's going to be updated. And the next part is actually quite important, and we need to add something. We need to add something between this router and the updated record module, because if you remember within our keywords table, we have this column, right? And this is the one that we want to update. So we want to add other video IDs that also are related to this specific keyword. However, if we were just to enter the new value, then this would be overwritten, right? So it would just be replaced, but it wouldn't be appended. And this is what we want. So what we need to do first is that we will save the current data that's within this video column, and we are going to save this within a variable. And then we are also going to save the new value within a variable, and then we will just concatenate it. So we will just throw it all into one array, and then we will define this as the new value, and we'll have a combined view of all the IDs that we need. So let's take care of this first. So we're going to leave this empty for now. We're also going to use the map option. And we're going to say OK, and then we will click between those two modules and add another module. And now we will set multiple variables. And this way we can create 2 variables in one go. And we will call the first one existing video IDs. And the value of this will be the array of the keywords table, which is called video ID. And the second variable will be called new video IDs. And this will be the record ID from the very first video creation module. This is coming from here, right? So we just created this, and at the moment of creation, Airtable automatically assigns a new record ID, right? And this is exactly the one we want to have. And that's it already. So we have both of our variables. I'm just going to say okay. And now we will add another module, and we will position this right between these two. And this will be another set variable. And this time we're going to call it combined video IDs. And the value of this will be the value of our existing video IDs array, and then we will append the new one to it, right? And we'll include it right into this array. And how we do this is by using a function called add. The first value will be the array itself, so we will use the existing video IDs, semicolon, and then the new value that's supposed to go in there. And this is the new video ID. And that's already it. And now we can go back into our update a record module, and we will now have the value that needs to go inside of our videos input field. And this is the combined video IDs. So we have a new nice array that are related to this specific keyword, and the old ones are not going to be replaced because we have saved them before, and now they are all within one array. All right, and now we are basically done, and we can finally test this again. But before we do, let's jump back into Apify. We are going to make a couple of adjustments within the settings so that we can be sure that there are similar keywords from the same creators, right? This is something that you would expect, but we obviously want more videos of them. So I'm just going to expand the date range. So let's say from the last 50 days, or let's make it 60. We're going to keep everything else. Jump back into Make, run this. Back in Apify, save and start. And we are done with the crawler. Jump back into Make, and now you see that there has already been updated keywords, as you can see here, 4, and also a couple of new ones. So this is finished now, and as you can see, there are 20 new keywords and 10 that were updated. So let's take a look at the data. And as you can see, there are a lot more videos right now, which is what we wanted. If we scroll over here, then we also have a lot of keywords that are related to this. And if we take a look at the keywords right now, then now you can see how there are actually plenty, or at least a couple of videos that are related to this specific keyword. Right, and now you can play around with all this data, and it gets a lot more interesting, of course, when you scale this, right? So when you have more data, more keywords, and then you can start to basically dive into the analysis. So let's have a really quick closer look. So we have a bunch of keywords, obviously, and remember these were extracted by the AI, right? And we have our videos here and the title. And now you can also see how this gets interesting in regards to the whole setup, because we have the total views right now, but this is the sum of those videos, right? So you know that there are 700,000 views in total for videos that are related to this specific keyword, right? I mean, we were looking for creators who are within that productivity niche, so that's not surprising, but there are a lot more insights into this, right? Then we have the average engagement, and we have our keyword importance score, right? Which is also kind of interesting. This is a very basic score and a very basic KPI, but it can still give us a little insight and you know, get the ideas flowing. So if we, for instance, were to sort this by the keyword importance, the highest at the top, then you can see what keywords are performing the best. And also you get a feeling for the numbers, right? So that you can see that the average engagement, for instance, if you have a double digit, then this is already a pretty good result for your own videos. This can get you pretty far. This will give you a lot of inspiration for combinations of certain topics, right? Travel, for instance. Maybe you didn't think about this. Then you could create your calendar and your content around all of this data. And now we're back in the videos table, and as you remember, we have our videos here. So we have our video ID, the title and the description, the tags, and now the view count and the likes and the comments, which is also quite interesting. And then you have something like the publishing date and also the duration, right? So let's take, for instance, a look at the duration. So if you take a look at the bottom here, then you will have a summary. So you have an average of 900 seconds, right? And this can also be quite interesting. So how long should your video be approximately? And then obviously you have all the keywords that are related to it, and then the relative numbers, like right, the likes per view or the comments per view. So same again, if you have a double digit in regards to the likes per view, that's a pretty high number, and that's also a good benchmark for yourself that you can set to achieve in your own videos. I'm going to give you a couple of bonus tips, just as promised, and get a little more in depth in regards to the data and how you can really get the best out of this. So the first one is that you can analyze the thumbnails, right? And I'm going to go into Apify again and into the runs and just have a look at what this actually returned besides the data that we have used. And if you go over to all fields, and then you will have a look into what this returned besides the data points that we have used. And I'm going to look for something very special, and this is the thumbnail URL. And as you can see, this is one of the runs we have just used in our testing. And if you click on this, then you can see that this actually opens up a link where you have access to that specific thumbnail of a certain video, and you have access to all of them. And you can use this by giving this to ChatGPT as well and have it analyze this, right? So ask it to analyze the whole thumbnail. For instance, what colors does it use? Is there text? Is there an image? How big is the person on that image, and everything else, so that you are able to recreate this. Extract the subtitles, and we're going to have a look into our runs again. And as you can see, we have turned this off, right? So we have our subtitle column here, and if we go back into our input settings that we have defined, then you will probably remember I have mentioned this in the very beginning, that here you have the option of scraping the subtitles, and you can just activate this like so, and then you will get the complete subtitles of that specific video. And this is extremely interesting, because imagine that this would basically mean that you have access to the complete content of that video. So you can even put this into ChatGPT as well and extract the keywords and topics and everything that's been said there as well, and analyze this as well. This is going to take a lot of tokens, obviously, and it's going to be a lot of data, but in theory you can use this as well. A little more mathematical with the calculations that we are using within Airtable, right? And there's, for instance, a very common KPI in regards to what we are doing here, and this is called the TF-IDF score. That is an abbreviation for term frequency and inverse document frequency. It sounds a little complicated, but if you read about this, this is quite easy. And it basically means that you have the number of times a keyword appears in a video, which is the term frequency, and then how common or rare a keyword is across all the videos, all of your videos. And so basically this means that a high TF-IDF score indicates that a keyword is important to a particular video, but not common across all videos. And this kind of information is something that you can use and use to your advantage, right? And you have the data to do all of this and to create these calculations within Make and Airtable. Outliers. And if you don't know what outliers are, these are basically videos that significantly deviate from the average of all your videos, right? So imagine that your videos are being watched on average 1,000 times. So you have 1,000 views per video, and then you have one and you get like 50,000 views, right? So this would be an outlier. And these are also data points that you can use to your advantage and that you can use and recreate this on your own. All right, that's it for today. Next time we're going to create our automated content calendar, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you will be notified about this, and I hope to see you then.